Hello. It's great to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me. Great to be here in Scotland as well. So I hope this is interesting, because I'm loving this and I'm learning so much from you guys and the speakers who've been here. So humour me and listen. But I think I would love to hear your views on both what I say, but also on what I should be doing, because I only started this job about 8 months ago, and before that I'd never worked in the library sector or world before, so don't really know why I'm here talking to you. But I've got a few things to say because I always have an opinion on everything. So that's me. But yes, it's great to be here and to be up here in Scotland. So I'm going to just share a few thoughts, really. Charity, what's a charity? When I talk about charities, what is a charity? It's something that has a purpose to do good. In England, governed by the Charity Commission, so they have to agree that what you're set up for is to do good. But essentially a charity doesn't make money in order to pay people a profit. And I'm probably going to use a load of words which I hope won't be controversial, like the lady talked about marketing earlier. When I talk about profit is a good thing, especially for charities, especially for the library sector, because we want to make a surplus, a profit. We need money to open new libraries, to employ more staff, to be open longer, and we can't do that without, I'm going on a rant already, aren't I? I haven't gone to my first slide, but we can't do that without money. So we need to be comfortable and confident talking about money. So what's a charity? So what's a business? So essentially everything we do, we are all part of business. What's the business you're going about today? When we talk about businesses, I guess we generally mean these are private companies which are there to make a profit for individuals, either the business owner or the shareholders, and they are primarily there to make money to pay others so they can be better off than others and maybe perpetuate that inequality thing. What's a library? If you know what a library is, I really would like to know. I think we've heard this morning, so many different definitions of what a library is. And that's one of the beautiful things about libraries. They are so much more than bookshelves. And essentially that's what I keep telling my friends and family who just think it's weird that I work in libraries. So anyway, this is a picture of me and my family. We've got 4 young boys, Joshua, Zach, Benji, Matty, that's Julie, my wife. Why do I put that there? Partly because I nicked these slides from a presentation I did to our staff, and partly because I don't want to give you, I can't give you a picture of someone called Amy that I'm going to talk about in a minute. But this is to remind me to say a little bit about my background. So mechanical engineering is what I did at Bristol University. Worked for the Ministry of Defence, project management, engineering project management, designing gadgets and stuff for the Special Forces, and then moved abroad. My wife's a teacher, and we were part of a team building a vocational training centre, teaching car mechanics, computing and English out in Tanzania. Spent a few years there, and then came back to the UK and ran a charity for the last 10 years. Southmead Development Trust in Bristol is what it was called, and we started off with a sort of community centre. I guess it was big, it was an old secondary school, we had lots of classrooms, and we just used that space really to serve the community. And there were so many opportunities to serve the community. I essentially had 2 questions. Firstly, will this idea or opportunity or project that we can get involved in, will it serve the community? Will it benefit the community of Southmead? And secondly, my second question was, will it make us money? Will it cover its costs? Will it be financially sustainable? And I summarised that by, will it make money? And so we ended up creating a load of startup businesses, because I think having a job is the single most important factor to someone's health. We started delivering mental health services, and we were commissioned by the CCG, Clinical Commissioning Group, and we did stuff around diabetes. We had projects with the DWP and helping employability. We were really frustrated with the housing problem. So after a little while of talking to people and no one was doing anything, we just thought we'd do it ourselves. So we started building some housing, and for every 100 homes that we built, affordable homes, so they were below market rent, we would generate enough income, enough money, enough profit, enough surplus, however you phrase it, to employ 8 full-time staff, and they would be youth workers and social prescribers. Now, that's a 20-year plan in order to make that work, but that's what we are doing, or they're doing now, implementing. We took on the local youth centre because the council withdrew and did a community asset transfer of that. because we were able to produce a business plan which said this is how we will use that asset to generate income during the day to fund our youth workers in the evening to do the youth work. Having a business plan which makes stuff stack up is so important. Anyway, that's probably enough about me. What's life about? What do you think life is about? For me, I think life's about relationships, and I'm going to use the David Lang's quote in later, but I just think that's a brilliant quote about libraries. But I think life is about relationships, for me personally, relationships with God, relationships with my wife, relationships with my immediate family, relationships with my friends, my neighbours, relationships with everyone, relationships with the environment and the world. I think life is about relationships. Life is not about money or about career or status or power or sex, in my opinion. And I think libraries are very much about relationships. And it's been fascinating in this job how little people have talked about books in my first eight months, and how much people have talked about people. And I'm really encouraged by that, and to be honest, really excited about that. We have so much potential. To be honest, I haven't been a great library user. When I was applying for this job and saw the job title, Libraries Unlimited, I almost didn't even look at it. But when I read the job description, it was clear they wanted someone who knew how to run social enterprise, charities, diversify income streams, and deliver impact and lead people, not necessarily someone who understood how to do the ins and outs of running an actual library. And so I'm afraid I don't know how to do that yet. So I'm really keen to learn. I get shown, and then a few weeks go by and I forget how to operate those RFID machines and things like that. But at university, I was fortunate enough to be able to fly with the University Air Squadron. And I think pilots are the only people who have clothing specifically designed to hold books. I would love to find out if there's anyone else or any other profession that you know of. So pilots have the two sort of knee pads, so when you're flying you can look down at the route you're going and the maps and stuff like that, and basically what to do if the engine fails. There's a cheat sheet there. One of the first books, the main book I remember borrowing from a library was non-fiction, and it was how to do an Eskimo roll in a canoe. So I like paddling, I like canoeing, and we were going on holiday down to Devon. As a family, we had a canoe, and I wanted to learn to roll. That's what I used from the library. It took me a while whilst filling out the application to realise that I have used books and libraries. It might just not be the fiction and the stories that my stereotype of a librarian would encourage and would use. So that video we saw earlier of people in libraries reading what others have said, that was really powerful and that was really good. I would also love to see a video of a famous footballer walking out to the pitch, putting down the book on their strategy for that football game, of a pilot walking out to the Red Arrows and just having a look at the books in his clothing, of some other folks, professions who use books that we don't necessarily associate with books. How do we get youngsters, and particularly young boys, my 4 boys who loved reading before they started school, and then get put off because teachers tell them they've got to read the next book, which is the next level, and that's not the fun book, and therefore they never want to read books again. But they're into, we play Minecraft and games together, and they're up for reading books on how to do that better. They'd like to learn to Eskimo roll. They'd love to be able to fly a plane one day. They just don't associate that with books, and certainly not with libraries. So what can we do about that? You haven't started the timer, so I don't even know where I'm at. Another opinion I've got, talking about myself, I think it's almost criminal that churches, village halls, council buildings, and maybe even libraries are closed more than they're open. These are assets for the community. These are community resources that are there to have an impact for everyone to have a better quality of life. So why are they closed, the door locked more than it's open? And what can we do about that? And so, in Southmead, we tried to get anyone and everyone in to make sure that the buildings we had were used all the time, ideally making that impact for the community and generating money so that we could be sustainable and generate more impact ourselves. And so one of the things we're looking at in our libraries down in Devon is Airbnb. You know, if the library's closed overnight, who would use it overnight? Well, people go camping by the beach in Devon. What about doing indoor camping? There's a great website called Champing. It's old decommissioned churches and people can pay to sleep in them. Now that's very niche and obviously not that many folks would do it, but I'm not going to take my family on holiday to a hotel or a bed and breakfast. We do camping, but if the weather is rubbish, we don't want to go. But if I could pay 60 quid to stay a night, all six of us in a library, obviously no food and no showers, that's fine. We're boys, we don't shower. Anyway. Just thinking about the assets and the resources we have, and what resources do we have? We have the buildings. How do we make money out of the books? I'm going to be known, I think, in my job as someone who talks about money a lot. It's not because I want to make money for money's sake. It's because money makes the impact happen. It's because money means we can do more. Someone described me as a socially conscious but commercially minded chief exec, and I think I take that as a compliment. And actually I'd love all of our staff to be socially conscious, and I think the vast majority are. That's why they work in libraries, but to be commercially minded, to understand what finances there is. I'm going to talk about, give you a story about a lady called Amy. Amy's not her real name, but I'd like you to imagine Amy from two perspectives. Amy is someone we worked with in Bristol, in Southmead Development Trust. But hopefully it'll become clear as you hear about her why she's relevant for libraries. And maybe someone that you and your colleagues work with. That's certainly the case down in Devon. So I'd like you to imagine her from two perspectives. The first is from her GP's perspective. So you're her GP. Amy is probably quite a familiar patient to you. She's in her early 40s and her BMI is 37. And her weight has steadily been increasing since she lost her job a year ago. She suffers from depression and anxiety. And she's come to you with chest pains, which, after sending her for extensive tests, you're certain are linked to her anxiety. She currently takes 20 milligrams of fluoxetine. However, she's come to you, and she's a regular face at the practice, after talking to someone on an online forum who has just increased their dosage to 40 milligrams and is feeling much better. She asks you to do the same for her, asserting that this and sending her for more tests regarding her pain will be just the push that she needs to finally attend that exercise class that you prescribed for her 4 months ago, and will also give her the motivation to start looking for work. What do you do? The way I see it, you've got three choices. You can increase her medication to 40 milligrams. You could send her for more tests that are unnecessary and expensive. You could provide a tea and natter service like you have been doing for the last year. Bearing in mind you're a GP, you've got 7 minutes per patient, you're running late, and you've got 1 minute left. What's your decision? But what if there was an alternative? A sustainable solution that would empower and equip Amy to take control and manage her own health and well-being, enabling her to access more appropriate sources of support within her community rather than through medication. Now, I'd like you to imagine this from Amy's perspective. Amy's feeling really scared, alone, and is close to giving up. She's come to her GP for help because she doesn't know where else to turn. She lost her job because her partner stipulated that she rang him every 10 minutes so that he could check where she was, and so she was dismissed. Everyone keeps going on about her weight, but food is the only comfort that she has. There's no way she can get to the gym whilst caring for her disabled daughter. Amy desperately wants someone just to listen to her, to spend time with her, and to give her hope. Thankfully for Amy and for her GP in Southmead, we had a social prescribing link worker, and I'm sure social prescribing is not a new thing to you guys. We had a social prescribing link worker that we employed as a charity based in that GP surgery, and they were able to provide a truly holistic service to Amy, and that's a true story, but also to hundreds of individuals like Amy. Providing support that the GP just cannot possibly provide, and also I guess as an engineer, you have the nuclear scientist working on the nuclear material, not on the security guard, not on every other job in the nuclear reactor. You have the GP working on people who are really ill. You don't want them working on and spending their time with folks that could benefit from other people. So why do I share that story? Well, I don't know about your places, but that's a familiar story in our libraries in Devon. Our staff meet Amy's all the time and provide support to people like Amy. In England, NHS England has now said they're going to fund a social prescriber for every GP surgery, which is in many ways great news. In Bristol, none of those social prescribers will be employed by the GP surgeries. They will all be employed by South Mead Development Trust and the other two, we call ourselves healthy living centres or social enterprise hubs or community anchor organisations or whatever the latest buzzword is, but essentially employed by the charities in Bristol. Because we were doing that work, we could see how it could work financially, and we were set ourselves up to be the obvious go-to people to be commissioned to do that work. Why haven't we done that in Devon? Why isn't Libraries Unlimited being paid to do that? We were well connected in the social prescribing world in Devon. We have a great reputation there. And I think it's because we go to these meetings, our staff are known, and no one has ever thought they could do with some money to do what they do in the library. They could do with some money to work with the AMEs. People always think, oh, they don't need money, they're funded. They're just, money is not on people's radar. How is it not on their radar? Both our staff to say, well, our staff are too happy to say, we can do this, we can do that, we can provide these services, it's free to use the library, just come in and use it for free. They don't think about what's the cost of the library being open. And therefore all our partners, and particularly public sector, the NHS, the police, the local authority, don't understand that there is a cost to using the library. I'm going to skip through the next couple of slides. Libraries Unlimited, great charity. There's some information on the website if you want to know more. We have lots of stuff borrowed and lots of people working there. What's that? That's just over 3 million visits to our libraries. We have 2 contracts with 2 local authorities. Devon County Council, so that's 50 libraries and 4 mobiles, and then 1 contract with Torbay Council, that's 4 libraries. We have, about 420 stops that our mobile libraries does. I think Devon, and including Scotland, I think Devon is the county with the longest road network. There are a lot of roads in Devon. It takes 2 hours to drive from the 2 libraries furthest apart. It's an eye-opener for me. What's our turnover? About 8.5 million. About 80% of our income comes from our contracts with the local authorities. So we generate the other income. From meeting rooms, from the Arts Council being an NPO, from other sources of income. We just got 10 grand from Tesco's recently to revamp our book track. That's sort of, I guess, like the Summer Reading Challenge, but all year round. This is the first picture you'll look at on our website if you visit, and that's what I saw when I did my research to apply for the job. Libraries Unlimited is amazing, and it is, I mean that, but we have this really shiny exterior. We look really good on the outside. Rightly so, we have some great staff, but turning up, it's like looking under the engine, looking at the engine and seeing what it's really like inside. Our engine is not like that. It's still a supercar. It's still amazing what we do, and we are changing lives. And in this room, wow, what a difference we make around the country. We need to shout about that so much more. We do that well in our echo chambers. We just use that word. We do that well in the library sector, but we don't do that outside. Why do so many people still not know that we have 3D printers in our libraries? We've got a laser cutter in one of ours. We've got Lego clubs and coding clubs. And so many folks are just surprised. And they think, I thought libraries were just bookshelves and they were old books. We need to be shouting out more. Anyway, turning up, looking at the engine. And I've been asking our staff 2 questions. Firstly, what does success look like? Secondly, how would they describe the culture of our organisation? And I think culture is really interesting. It's something that changed. Culture eats strategy for breakfast. You can have a strategy, you can have a plan, but if your culture isn't right, if it's not there, then what's the point in having a strategy? Changing culture is slow, but is worth it, and it needs to be planned. In terms of success, that's been really interesting. I had one lady said, "Oh, success, Alex, success is knowing the name of everyone who comes through that front door of my library." And I kind of like that. Someone else said, success, Alex, success is not knowing the name of everyone who comes through the front door of our library. Actually, I think they both meant the same thing. Knowing their regulars and knowing who is new, being welcoming and knowing people, and it's about relationships. So I think I quite enjoyed that. But in the answers about success, people would talk about relationships, about people and changing lives, not about books, which was fascinating as someone who's new to the sector. For us, for me, for this charity, we've got a number of urgent priorities. Our IT is shocking. It was really bad. We were trying to separate from the local authorities and sort of own it ourselves, so that if something went wrong, no one really knew who it was and who was responsible, and you ring up the council because it's still linked to their system and they didn't really know, and then a couple of years later someone finds out, but it's too late. But our IT system essentially has gone from being 20 years old to now only being 5 years old. It is still not cutting edge or state of the art. It's still not providing really the services that people should benefit from. That's one of our challenges. Culture, business planning, commerciality. Wow, we are so financially illiterate in Libraries Unlimited, in the library sector. Impact measurement. There's some good stuff going around impact measurement, but it's just not good enough. We need to be talking about the real impact we're having more and better, and in the language that people need to hear it. So politicians, councillors, our funders, the public, but young people, 20s and 30-year-olds, businesses, they need to understand the impact that libraries have so that they use them. Our staff, we need to understand the impact so that we're not embarrassed of talk about money, but we're proud to say, our library costs 50 grand a year to run. Wow, isn't that good value for money? Because this is the impact we have. Our staff don't even know how much the library costs to run, let alone how to articulate the impact they have. It's in many ways, I'm still learning so much. In many ways, it's fascinating. We get about £7 million from Devon County Council a year, and we've got 6 KPIs, key performance indicators. I'm pretty sure they don't commission any other service with just 6 key performance indicators, especially for £7 million. I don't want to say that too loudly because I don't want to complain too much, but then the KPIs we have are how many books are borrowed, how many hours of internet or computer usage is used, or how many people have walked through the front door. Is that what we're there for? Is that the impact that libraries have? Does that measure our success? When we're talking about the likes of Amy, when we talk about all these amazing things that we've been hearing this morning, those KPIs do not reflect the success we have. So no wonder people don't really know really what libraries and the value are. And yet, we are really fortunate that people love libraries, trust us and our staff. So if a councillor or an MP wants to get elected and you start saying, oof, this library might close, suddenly that becomes the issue that they will win or lose the election on, potentially. They are quite emotive subjects. Libraries about communities. We've already seen this quote before, but I'll put it there again. Bad libraries build collections. Good libraries build services. Great libraries build communities. This picture is to say we are custodian. I don't need to tell you this. We're custodians of something amazing. The library service is incredible. It's fragile. It's really important. We are custodians of this, not just for the services and the offering that we'll be providing the next year, the next few months, but for the next generation, for my kids, for their kids, for our great-grandchildren. Libraries have a huge heritage, hundreds of years of legacy. What's going to happen on our watch? What services will we be offering? What are we going to be doing about VR, virtual reality, augmented reality, or artificial intelligence? What are we going to be doing about digital divide and inequality? What's going to happen on our watch? Partnership working is crucial. We want to work together with everyone. I've got 2 quotes here. This is my favourite one. There's one quote that I haven't got on this slide, but I'll tell you, just don't repeat it too much, although I have been telling our staff, sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. Just do it. Just make a decision. Just crack on. Don't have a great idea and then presume some committee somewhere understands your idea and is thinking about it seriously and going to make a decision one day. If it's a great idea and you can justify doing it, just crack on. This African proverb, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. In the library world, in Libraries Unlimited, we absolutely are going far. We are here. We are custodians for the next generation. Let's go together. Together with our staff, with our users, with our non-users, with the businesses, with the councillors, with the politicians, with our funders and our potential funders, with our potential sponsors, together with potential staff. This lady used to run the Charity Commission, and on her time there she said, we really urge charities to consider collaborative ways of working. It may well be the single most important thing they can do to strengthen their sustainability. You can put anything there. Working together is really important, especially for sustainability. We We need a clear destination. What's the mountain? Where are we going? What is our definition of a library? What is a library? What is a thriving library service in Devon? We need to be able to articulate that in one sentence, really simply, and we'll get behind that. We need to have a clear objective, but then a clear plan, a clear route map, road on how to get there. And so for us, a business plan is quite urgent. What is a library? Is it a community hub? Yes, absolutely it is. Could we put in a microbrewery? Could we put in a swimming pool? Could we put in some climbing walls? All these things to make money, but also to get more people in. And actually, those who don't use libraries will come in and use the libraries and then borrow books to understand maybe not how to drink better, but how to climb better, how to maybe make brew some stuff at home or something. These are just a few potential objectives. Sorry, I'm going to run over by a minute, but I do want to talk about a couple of these. Being carbon neutral, let's set that as an objective. Now, think commercially, think about money. So when I wrote that down, first thing I thought about was, what does that have to do with money? Because obviously it's a good thing to do and we all want to do it. How about we'll borrow 10 books, donate 10 quid, we'll plant 10 trees. And rather than we just plant 10 trees anywhere, actually we want to own those trees so that we can harvest them in 20, 30 years' time and sell them for paper for the next round of books and make an income there. And we'll be planting more trees than we're harvesting so that we can have a sustainable income stream. A bit like the housing in Southmead. It will be a sustainable income stream for the next generation, not for me running the charity now, but at least we'll have some sources of income then. And then actually there is forest school and there's forest libraries and there's ways of taking bounce and rhymes and mums and toddlers groups out into the woodlands straight away from day one. And it turns out the government give you a grant if you plant trees in 10 hectares or more of land. They give you money every year for the privilege of just having trees grow on your land. So there is a source of income there. That's just one example of think about money from day one, about every project you do. If money and impact don't come together, then is it a priority? Everyone being able to read over the age of 11, that word every, I was just amazed how much flack I got from that. Well, that's not possible. It shouldn't be everyone because there's some people with learning difficulties who won't be able to read by the age of 11. Let's work with our partners. We can't achieve that on our own, but let's aim for perfection. We were having a great conversation yesterday about what is success, and I think let's aim for 100% every time. Conscious that we're not going to beat ourselves up if we don't hit it, but let's do our best. And people get behind visionary ideas like that. No single income stream being more than 50% of our turnover. Whew. I would love that to be the case. I've come to realise there is no chance that's going to happen for Libraries Unlimited. We are donor-driven. We are controlled by the local authority. Yes, we're an independent charity, but essentially, if we don't do what we're told to do in the contract, won't be renewed, we won't exist. And for £8.5 million turnover, it's unlikely I'm going to be able to find £4.5 million to top it up to make sure that we're not dominated by the contract from the local authorities. That's not a bad thing, but we want to keep diversifying our income streams. Fees and fines is an interesting one. Should we be charging those or not? And again, I think, what is success? Success is not having to charge fees and fines because people bring their books back. Success is not just writing off and allowing people to abuse the system and keep books at home so other people can't borrow them. Success is not having targets to raise more money from fees and fines. Success is no fees and fines. It's like food banks. Success is no food banks, not more people using food banks. Let's pick another one. Revitalising our high streets. We've got a number of villages, rural communities where we've got a library, and where we've got a library everywhere, I think there's three other sort of commonalities. There's a GP surgery, there's a shop, and there's a pub in every community where we have a library. So let's get together and figure out what is the future of that high street, because I don't think we can rely on the local authorities to do that, or do that in a way which excites people, and which is going to be commercial and sustainable. And actually, we did a bit of stuff around high streets in Bristol. The thinking now is rather than having a front door to a shop or to a library and it sort of being cavernous and loads of stuff behind, you want to spread it out along the high street. So you just have one sort of depth of bookshelves or shopping experience, and all your customers are on show. So it creates that sense of lots of people there, but requiring far fewer shops. Who's going to be thinking that? Who's going to be planning the towns of the future and affecting the planning applications? We need to be part of that conversation, and that's what a community hub is. Businesses. Let me finish with this. As a charity, and I think we can say this for the public sector, for libraries, but as a charity, we need to be more business-like than businesses, because we have a greater responsibility for every pound, for every penny that we have. We cannot waste it. We're not there to pay shareholders a dividend or to make someone else richer. We're custodians of every pound we have to make it work as hard as it can to improve the quality of life of our customers, and for us in libraries, of everyone. So let's be ruthless in using business skills to help have that impact. I keep telling our folks, there isn't a secret plan, there isn't a secret committee that will make a decision. If you can make a decision, just make it, just do it, and crack on. Don't defer to someone higher up the chain if it's an obvious answer. We don't want chains. Know how much your library costs. I was asking someone, could we charge for Bounce and Rhyme, that sort of parent-toddler group? And we're not going to do that. But I like asking these questions to see their reaction on their faces. And one lady said, well, of course we wouldn't charge. That's free. You know, why would we charge? There's no cost to us when the library's open. They just can come in and use the space, and we use it, and our staff are here. And yeah, okay. And I said, well, it's not free. How much does it cost every hour the library's open? And they're like, it doesn't cost us anything. And then she was like, oh, maybe it does. And then I was like, well, so how much is your salary and the other people who are here, and then the heating and the rent? And then just that comprehension of, wow, there's a cost, and what's the hourly cost of this library being open? And then thinking, if we have 100 people through the door, if we have 100 books being borrowed per hour, how much does that cost per book? And that's not the way that we will define success, but that's a way of saying, actually, how do we prioritise? We need to know whether we are getting the best bang for the buck in the projects that we do. I had a couple of final challenges for us. 1964 Act, that's a bit of a boring read, but it's really useful for us. We are so fortunate to have that. We are struggling financially as a sector, but we have not been decimated like other people. We have an opportunity to make the most of that 1964 Act. I don't know what Boris Johnson's going to do, but I don't, well, I can say whatever I want, can't I? We're a charity now. I don't entirely trust him. We are fortunate. What's going to happen on our watch to not just libraries in our patch, but in the UK and the world? What's going to happen around inequality? What's going to be our role and our responsibility and our skill set that we need to drive forward change? Who's helping Amy? Well, we are helping Amy. Therefore, let's tell people we're helping Amy. Let's explain the impact we have. Rather than people hearing that story about Amy and go, oh, that's great for the GP should get the money. We had this conversation earlier. I've got friends who are doctors, relatives who are doctors. GPs are private businessmen. They run their business, their GP practice. Now they're a tradesman, trained to be a GP, but ultimately that is their business. That's their if they're a partner, that's their inheritance. That's their income, their pension. They're going to sell that to the next GP when they retire. We work with the likes of Amy. Let's tell others that we have an impact there. Commercial literacy, how are we going to increase that understanding in our workforce? Are we going to be comfortable talking about money? When we talk about value, yes, we need case studies, but we need to be able to say how much stuff costs and prove that we provide value for money. Thank you very much. Sorry, that was a load of rambling and thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts and any advice you've got on how to run a thriving library service. We have so much potential. I've got loads of ideas, but I think everyone should have a mentor, not just the middle class whose parents have a contact who says, oh, you can do work experience here, or I'll introduce someone who's a doctor, they'll tell you what it's like. Everyone should have the opportunity to meet someone in any profession they want, and libraries are a great way of making that happen. How do we level the playing field? How do we be genuinely tackling inequality? I said I was done, wasn't I? I'm done. Great to meet you all. Thank you very much.